welcome to Rock Paper Shotgun. Normally, I'd introduce myself as a video producer called Colin Ahern, but the joy of role-playing games is that they allow me to become characters with far more interesting lives. I mean, would you rather wrestle with a dragon or a Premiere Pro timeline? Exactly. The best RPGs have always found their home on PC, but the sheer size of the genre can make it difficult to know what you should play next. That's why everyone at Rock Paper Shotgun put together this list of the very best RPGs you can play on PC. We've taken a broad definition of the genre rather than trying to split hairs over what is and isn't an RPG. Why limit ourselves? Also, we favoured games that we'd still recommend you play today, rather than view things through rose-tinted specs. That doesn't mean we've cast classics to one side, no. There's a good mix of games, both new and old in here. Of course, if you get to the end of this list and we haven't mentioned your fave, be sure to have a look at our full top 50 RPGs list on rockpapershotgun.com. It might be in there. Failing that, why not leave a comment and let us know all about your favourite? You might persuade us or someone else to start playing it. So let's not waste any more time and get into the top 13 RPGs to play on PC. You can't help but adore the wrestle dads of Yakuza 0. In too many RPGs, quests are transactional. In Yakuza 0, helping people is its own reward. So many dejected children, insecure rockers, and walking erections all across Tokyo and Osaka are in trouble. The sort of trouble that can only be solved by sharply dressed gentlemen with fists of steel and hearts of gold. The general public's token rewards mean nothing compared to the XP we can earn from our businesses, but their smiles mean everything. Yakuza 0's tone is, well, all in. We're not helping children win toy car races or dance battling. Our two protagonists, Kazuma Kiryu and Goro Majima, are snared in deadly conspiracy and will dramatically whip their shirts off to rumble whenever honour demands it. Each balances the other, two sides of a melodrama coin. Its nightlife districts are among our favourite open world spaces, like little neighbourhoods we know just as well as our own. And we'll never get bored of twatting punks with bicycles or busting heads with breakdancing moves. I mean, who would? Is this even an RPG? Only the amorphous and inscrutable machines of the future could tell you. But the tags on Steam say it is, so let's go with that. Even if it also leaps between bullet hell shmup and spectacle fighter with all the acrobatic glee of its nimble robot characters. The truth is, Nier Automata is hard to nail down in under a minute. On first glance, this is an action-heavy sci-fi story about reclaiming Earth from destructive robots. On second glance, it is something else entirely. On third glance, you'll find a Tin Man with the name of a 17th century mathematician, and you will start to wonder how many more glances it will take to truly know what this game is doing. The only thing we're certain of is that it's brilliant. This homebrew RPG is laced with more jokes than a giant novelty Christmas cracker. Even its form and structure qualifies as one big laugh at the JRPGs too many of us think of as profound and timeless, whilst also somehow being a love letter to the same genre. I mean, you do walk around and get into random battles, complete with a menu featuring the options to fight, use items, or flee. But sprinkled into that menu are verbs not used in Final Fantasy or Chrono Trigger. Flirt, compliment, talk, pet. This is a tale about vanquishing terrors with comical kindness, not violence. It's true, you could attack. At any moment in the surreal land of frog monsters and treacherous flowers, you could lose patience and click on the fight option. It's always there, the ability to kill these silly baddies. But in hitting these wonderful foes, you'd only be giving in to all those JRPG cliches that came before. And Undertale would rather you casting courage rather than lightning. Whatever category you want to put it in, System Shock 2 is one of the best games ever made. Few games, whether set in the depths of dungeons or the depths of space, have captured the claustrophobia that comes from being surrounded by death. You're never allowed to forget that a skin of metal separates you from extinction, and that the interior spaces that the universe is pressing against from the outside are filled with corrupted and corrupting organisms. That sense of dread and doom makes Irrational's masterpiece one of the greatest horror games, and as a sci-fi horror RPG, it is certainly unique. Its use of inventory management and character development allows System Shock 2 to retain its quality on repeated visits. There's no other RPG so tightly designed, so terrifying, and yet so open to experimental play. The two things Elder Scrolls games do well are landscape and what we'll call choiciness. Skyrim has both in spades. Huge mountains with snow-covered peaks roll into forests, marshes, bogs, ice caves, and each town and city has something unique about it. It's a game that urges adventure, and where you can feel like you're on a grand journey simply by endeavouring to walk from A to B. The choiciness comes from Bethesda's continued commitment to covering their world with a dozen equally engaging activities. Yes, you are the Dragonborn, the one and only, and the world depends on you to save it, but also, there's a mage's guild to lead, a fighter's arena to conquer, the murderous dark brotherhood to join, and so on. None of these activities is as fleshed out as they might be in a more focused game, but the variety and number of possible experiences is the whole point. Skyrim is a game to lose yourself in, so go on, get lost. If you're looking for a beautifully written RPG that grapples with what it means to be human, look no further than Disco Elysium. It marries a novel set of mechanics with a well-written script and an original setting to explore. The mechanics are 1. That your skills are represented as internal voices of your protagonist that you can engage in conversation, and 2. That you can internalize ideas you encounter while exploring the world in ways that both help or hurt your character. The setting is Revachol, a city on an island still marked by a failed communist revolution. These two things work together to create a game all about what kind of person you are, who you want to be, and what it means to really change. Disco Elysium strays close to being a game about how cool it is to be a f***ed up renegade cop, but does an admirable job of holding a mirror up to the real harm that person can cause. And it gives you the tools to make amends. It's also, finally, the rarest of all things. A meaty narrative RPG that contains no combat whatsoever. If you wished your explorations of Rapture or Skellige weren't constantly interrupted by the need to shoot a splicer or stab a drowner, then Disco Elysium is the game for you. For certain types of people on certain types of forums, this was BioWare's last great game. The developer would stick with advanced Dungeons & Dragons rule sets for a little longer after this, but the combination of sourcebook purity, the relative timelessness of the 2D art, and a complete, well-escalated and impressively dark single-player storyline means Baldur's Gate 2 remains a solid favourite. This was BioWare setting out their stall as the role-playing elite rather than fans. And even if they've long since said farewell to its heavily statistical and strategic combat, it's absolutely the foundation of the memorable characters and moral agonising that makes Mass Effect and Dragon Age so popular now. And even games like Anthem have a lot to, No, not really actually. Anyway, Baldur's Gate 2, it's very good. JC Denton is enough of a blank slate that it seems reasonable to approach each of his missions and escapades in a manner of your own choosing. And his body is a cyber canvas that allows you to plug and play with all kinds of devices. He's an outlet in which to plant peripherals and, as all the best RPGs do, Deus Ex understands that the player is the most important peripheral of all. Iron Storm never tell you how to play or admonish you for taking the path less trodden. There are constraints and boundaries built into the world, of course, but each area is constructed with an eye toward those constraints. Deus Ex wants you to discover the edges of its possibilities and to push up against them, because its designers are interested in your solutions and recognize that the most interesting ones are the ones that they didn't necessarily predict. Despite following a very traditional structure, visit 4 different enormous regions, building up to a climactic battle, the overwhelming volume of history, lore, culture and conflict that was in place from the very start let Dragon Age define itself as a massive new world. This was BioWare stepping away from D&D and creating their own story. And on top of that story, there's a superb real-time combat system that allows you to pause the action and give orders to your party whenever you like. At over 100 hours long, each location is enormous, packed with quests and bursting with character. And its enormity never feels like filler. Well, maybe in the Fade. But most of the time, its scale is justified. There's so much to do, change and meddle with. Its characters feel like friends, its battles like something that genuinely matter. Dragon Age Origins is an extraordinary creation, unmatched since in terms of its meticulously detailed vastness. Although, I think we can all agree that Ogryn was a dick. While we're here, it makes sense to give a mention to the middle act of BioWare's sci-fi trilogy. Now, were this a guns and conversation list, Mass Effect 2 would have no equal. Yes, much of what purists consider an RPG to be has been excised in favour of direct action and on-the-spot decision-making. But in terms of spirit, playing a roving space captain trying to restore peace to the galaxy one planet at a time has never been bettered. The first Mass Effect didn't quite know what to be, and the third one in the series was a victim of the need to resolve dozens of dangling story threads. But 2 has focus, a meaningful sense of behavioural choice, and most of all, momentum. It all culminates in one of the most thrilling and potentially tragic third acts in video game history. Mass Effect 2 also boasts what might be role-playing's finest musical moment.
I am the very model of a scientist Solarian. I've studied species Turian, Asari and Batarian. I'm quite good at genetics as a subset of biology because I am an expert, which I know is a tautology. My xenoscience studies range from urban to agrarian. I am the very model of a scientist Solarian.
You most certainly are, Morden. What astounds most about The Witcher 3 is how human it can be. Where other RPG epics often lose their characters' humanity among the fantasy heroics, Geralt and his friends continually draw the focus back down to earth. In the quiet, non-sexy moments, when characters are alone between quests, and you hear the playful banter as old friends reunite, you slowly realise how much you enjoy spending time with these people. That's still too rare, even among other well-written RPGs. Not all the time, but there is a great deal of humanity scattered across The Witcher's vast and beautiful dark fantasy land too. People's stories, their sadness, the small dilemmas and consequences you'll face as you go. While the combat is a bit clunky in terms of being a role-playing game, The Witcher 3 absolutely masters the wandering adventure fantasy. And the card game in it is pretty decent too. Discussions around the difficulty of Dark Souls tend to undermine the discussions that we should be having about the quality of Dark Souls, because it's a game that understands the value and incline of a decent learning curve, and its central rhythm of progress, death and repetition teaches rather than tortures. The Souls games are an assured reinvention of dungeon crawling, and in fact, the entire concept of dungeons and RPGs. Everything from enemy placement to the twisted lay of the land contributes to the challenge of the game, as well as adding to the lore that is stitched into the fabric of the world. And on the topic of baddies, the combat is sublime, combining inch-perfect animations, timings, and agonizing tension to make every encounter memorable. Dark Souls teaches you how to play as you travel through its horrors and mysteries, yeah, but it also teaches you how to read games, making you aware of the fact that everything in this world can contain clues. So just pay attention, otherwise you'll probably end up soulless. Make a note now before you forget. Kill Magister Holand. You may wonder why. I mean, this nondescript NPC is a virtual nobody in one of the most sprawling and detailed RPGs of the last decade. He's a guard like many others, he has no items of worth, and he takes no part in any of the game's many quests or storylines. But if you scroll to the comment section of his wiki entry, you will note that he does one unforgivable thing that the other guards do not. He kills your cat! The bastard. That's just one moment of many in which Divinity Original Sin 2 will catch you off guard. This is a detailed RPG full of overlapping quests and character arcs. You can play co-op with a pal, go to opposite ends of the same island, and meet in the chambers of an angry boss mage with wildly different motives for dealing with him. But even as you play on, and argue over who among your party of reprobates deserves to become a fresh-faced god, it's the small moments that build the biggest stories. So you've got to this point in the video and you're wondering where your fave is. Well, you better check out RPS's full list of the best RPGs to play on PC on rockpapershotgun.com then. You might find your favourite actually did make the cut. If it didn't, then please do leave a comment championing the role-playing game you love more than any other. We love to celebrate great games, so we'd be happy to hear about the RPGs you hold dear. Thanks very much for watching, you absolute star, and remember, for all of your PC gaming needs, keep it on rockpapershotgun.com.